if we just start off like your background in this whole industry and why you started in building in the first place and what got you interested in efficiency and green building and now modular construction and all the rest.
Sure. Well, it's kind of very coincidental or serendipitous, if you want to call it that. When I was in elementary school in the mid 80s, I had a project. One of our teachers taught us about passive solar homes that were, kind of coming, not really all the rage necessarily, but definitely a niche that she thought it would be, a fun project to teach us about. And so we had an assignment to design a passive solar home, after she explained to us what that meant. And I sketched out a house on a piece of, 11 by 17 poster board and decided, I love this. This is what I think I want to do for the rest of my life. And so at like 12 years old, thought, okay, well, I'm going to be an architect, and told my 7th grade guidance counselor, I want to be an architect. And he said, great, focus on science and math. Okay, cool. I'm pretty good at those things, so I can focus on those things. And I did. And then got to high school and started applying for architecture programs. And they asked me for an art portfolio. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I can do calculus and draw a straight line, but nobody told me to focus on preparing, my art skills to become an architect. They told me to focus on science and math. And so I went into engineering because that was where my strengths were. And that was what I was more aptitude for that versus architecture. Once I found out that architects are supposed to be artists. And so I did an undergrad in civil engineering, realized that I still didn't really have the opportunity to learn very much about designing and building houses, which was still what I was interested in. And so I pursued a master's degree in architectural engineering in order to focus more on architecture, and was very fortunate that where I went to graduate school, Penn State actually has a housing research center. So not only did I get the opportunity to move into a degree program that was more in line with what I wanted to do, but they also had this very focused area, endowment and professors and programs focused on housing. And so in the late 90s, while I was in graduate school, that was the first time that I was introduced to the concept of building science, and started to, learn how to draw an exterior wall section and identify whether or not the house would be drying to the inside or to the outside, and where the dew point would be, and, starting to think about the science of all of that. And so as I then entered the field of construction management, went to work for national production, one of the national production home builders. And then I went to work for a custom builder. I was out in the field. The start of my career, I went into the field right away. Not really, I would say, knowing full on that was the right move in order to lay the foundation for my career, but I must have been guided by somebody to say, you should go be a superintendent first, get boots on the ground, really get out there and see exactly how the homes are built, what all of the challenges and opportunities are for the people on the front lines to, execute this. And then I kind of worked backwards in my career. In other words, started in the field where everything goes together. And then throughout my career, I worked backwards into understanding all of the pre-construction part of it, the design, the permitting, the estimating, the contracting, writing good scopes of work for contractors and subs. To get back to, at the start of my career, I realized pretty quickly that, there was a lot of pretty big disconnect oftentimes between what was drawn and specified and then what actually got installed, and the care of the tradespeople, and not even just the care. I met a lot of tradespeople that really cared about what they did and wanted to do a good job, but kind of to the point that you said earlier, that you were hiring subcontractors in 2022 that showed up to your house and still didn't understand anything about air sealing or care about these things or know about these things. I was realizing that in the early 2000s in my career, and really felt like it was an opportunity, to be focused on. And fast forward then to, again, through about 15 years of working for a production builder and focused on the pre-construction side, I became very passionate then in the mid 2000s about building better homes, realizing that, this industry that I'm in, and I love it, I never wavered from thinking that I wanted to be in this industry. The seed had been planted when I was 12 and definitely had only grown. But also realizing what an impact we have on the world, in so many ways, not just the performance of the homes that we're building, but where we're building them, how we're building them, who we're building them for, just really became a lot more aware of how much our industry impacts society. And at the time, I was working for an urban infill townhome developer in the DC market, whose tagline was life within walking distance. And so we were very focused on providing a homeowner with the experience of living a car-free life, or at least, low car lifestyle. And so when I started to learn more about these third-party green building programs and what they were based on, and realized that, there's a lot more here than just the actual built product. There's also a lot of value weighted towards where you build the house, what the density is, how close you are to transit and amenities, and, not just amenities, but, grocery stores and dry cleaners and all the other things you need to live. And so I went to, the leadership team and said, we're already building a really great product, in a lot of ways. And what we would need to do the changes we would need to make to turn these homes into something that would actually, go through a checklist and be able to get a third-party stamp of approval, it's pretty minimal. We really don't have to change a lot about the actual home we're building because of all of these other things we're already doing. And so everybody was really excited about that. And so I kind of championed our movement into building homes that were third-party certified as Energy Star and LEED for Homes. We did some public housing units that were certified under Enterprise Green Communities program, which is very a program that is very popular with public profile projects. Again, realized, it was exciting that we didn't have to make a huge amount of change to the actual home that we were building in order to meet these certifications, but the minimal changes that we did need to make. So in other words, getting back to this, to the blower door test, realizing that when we really prided ourselves on being a quality home builder. It was one of the reasons I worked for that company as long as I did is because I felt immense pride in the quality of what we did. But it was kind of a reality check when we did our first blower door tests, and we were, pushing 10. And the goal at the time for us was going to be, in the 6s and 7s. And gaining those 3 points, those 3, fewer air changes was a lot of work. It was really challenging. And it kind of brought together everything that I had learned and focused on at that point in my career, of realizing that it starts with design, it starts with a really good bid set, it starts with a really good specification and scope of work, but to put all of that in writing and then hand it over to tradespeople and to count on them to execute it without any additional training or supervision, or even the why behind it, like really helping them take pride in what we were trying to accomplish, that was something that was a real major opportunity, the major obstacle and opportunity to success. I was very fortunate that this was all happening right around the time of the downturn, and I was sent to the field, back into, boots and hard hat world, and being out there on the front lines, helping to bring all of these goals to life, and, doing that training, doing that education, really managing the, extreme attention to quality control. And we did it. We achieved that. We got a lot of subcontractors trained. We really felt like we didn't feel like it. We were on the leading edge of what we were doing in our market. And so for, subcontractors, we would explain to them that, yeah, maybe this is a little painful. This is not what you're used to. You're going to have to go back. You're going to have to take a little more time. You might have to come back to the house and execute a punch list one more time than you're used to, because we got to get this blower door test to hit, or we got to pass this inspection. But tradesperson, owner of the business, do you see that this is coming? This is coming to the industry. The building codes are going to start requiring this in a couple of years. Other builders are going to be expecting you to do this. We're helping to put you in a position where your company becomes more valuable and more sustainable, to stay in business. And that was a good conversation to have with people, to really help them get on board, because it was, like I said, it was challenging. The disconnect between, the owner of an insulation company all the way down to the crew that's actually doing the work, it can be a pretty big gap. The owner can understand why it's important, and they can make a commitment when they're signing a contract to do it for you, the builder, but how much care and time and attention they've given to the boots on the ground that are doing the work is the part that we found was often missing. And so trades training is a big part of what I became passionate about as well. So fast forward then to when I was then living in Denver less than 5 years ago, I decided to join a local home building academy as an instructor. And part of the reason that I wanted to do that was, again, really remembering, what we had gone through in trying to train and educate tradespeople who were very good at what they did already, but helping bring them to the next level of understanding of a high performance home. And what does this mean for you, plumber, insulator, HVAC contractor, framer, everybody plays a part in the success of the project. And so it was an opportunity for me to kind of get back to focusing on that, to focusing on workforce development, not only from the standpoint of, well, the construction industry is really struggling with workforce development, and careers in construction is not something that is prevalent in the guidance counselor conversation these days. Everybody is being told to go to college, and so I wanted to be a part of changing that narrative and getting people excited about all of the opportunities for careers in construction as tradespeople and business owners. And wherever I had the opportunity while I was doing that, to drop knowledge and drop excitement into our students about, high performance homes, and, yeah, you can do it this way. This is what you need to do for code. This is what you need to do to get by. This is what you need to do to, be in business, but you could do this, and then you can really blow people away. You can be in a different niche. You can be better than code. You can really, serve a customer with something that is even better than they were going to be, than they ever imagined, the home that they were going to to live in. So it wasn't a primary focus of that Home Building Academy and their program to, focus on the high performance part, but I definitely took advantage of the opportunity to work that into the conversation wherever possible. That's
Very
it.
cool.
That's a lot of my background.
That's great. And now you consult with builders and modular home construction companies mainly, is that right?
Yeah. So whenever I joined the Home Building Academy, that was right after I had started working for as a solopreneur consultant. My goal with my consulting business has always been to bring the large builders' perspective, which of course I had worked most of my career for production builders. And so when you're building production homes, you're building a lot of homes, you're building volume, the emphasis on pre-construction planning is even greater, because obviously, if you make a $1,000 mistake in your estimate on one house, okay, that's $1,000. But if you're building 300 houses, that's $300,000 problem. If you realize that you made a design error and you have a callback, you're going to get a callback from somebody that, my thermostat isn't working, or I don't understand how to service my water heater, or this window is experiencing a problem because it wasn't installed correctly. Again, if you do that in one house, okay, no big deal. But if you do it in 300 houses, that's a big deal. So I had been trained and tasked with hyper focused pre-construction planning. And I wanted to bring that level of discipline and perspective to small builders and contractors and remodelers, really help them see the value of a little bit more time and attention into their bid phase and their pre-construction phase in order to reduce change orders and delays once the project got into construction. So simultaneous to building my consulting business is when I also started working at the Home Building Academy as, another way to get to build my network and to, look for opportunities to grow my business. And then when I left Denver and now I reside in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, when I moved to Pittsburgh, I thought, you know what, I'm going to take this kind of reset opportunity to say, what do I know? What don't I know? What parts of the industry do I think that I'd like to learn more about and support? And that one of the answers to that question was modular construction. I had been exposed to modular construction again, all the way back in graduate school. The state of Pennsylvania actually is a major hub of manufacturers of, housing factories. So while I was at Penn State in graduate school, we had also had a project that we worked on for the Manufactured Housing Association here in Pennsylvania. And that was the first time that I became aware of the idea of, building a home in a controlled environment in a factory and then shipping it to the site pre-assembled, that it seems like a better way of doing things. And so when I learned about that again in the late 90s, I thought for sure, this is going to be the future. This is what I'm going to see in my career. My career in home building is most definitely going to include manufactured and modular construction, because I can see that this is a better way of doing it. Well, I moved to Pittsburgh in 2020 and still only 3% of the homes that are built in the United States are being built using these offsite construction technologies. And I thought, this is insane, and I want to learn more about it so that I can, understand how to promote it, how to be a part of it. And so I have, went to work directly with, had a full-time contract with a local small high-performance modular home builder who was a design build of custom high-performance homes here in Pittsburgh. And then I've also moved into consulting for another modular builder here, and still, have definitely become even more impassioned with, that this is a better way to do it. Even aside from the high performance part, it's better. And tying the conversation all together in terms of workforce development and careers in construction, it also helps to address some of the pushback that you get from people about entering, careers in construction as tradespeople that, that it's tough work. You're working in the heat, you're working in the cold, you're working outside, you don't have a desk, you may not even have a great bathroom, taking your tools out of your truck every single day and setting up. And, if you have a 10-hour work day, 3 hours of that is just getting to the job site and getting mobilized and set up and then breaking down for the day. And you're really only getting, 7 hours of output out of the 10 hours of your day. And so those are some of the challenges. Well, when you're working in a factory environment, that all pretty much goes away. You're inside, you're standing on solid ground, you're not working on a ladder or scaffolding, your tools are there when you get there every morning and you wrap up for the day and you just walk out, just like those of us that work at a desk. You shut down, you clean up for the day and you leave. You're driving to the same place every day. You can focus on buying your own home in the neighborhood that you're going to have, the commute that you're willing to make to go to work in a factory, and you know that you're always going to be going to the factory. You're not going to different job sites. So there's a lot of advantages to the modular conversation, not only in terms of better homes, but in my opinion, also better career paths for people that want to build homes.
Very cool stuff. Yeah, great points. I thought of a couple of things, and you turned me on to the Colorado Homebuilding Academy, and I did the 30-day class there too. And, day one, you're carrying around, it's like how to carry around OSB board. and you literally pick up pieces of drywall and walk around. And I think they started it. It's a consortium of the major home builders, right, in Colorado, because they couldn't find people.
Yeah.
Or cannot, present tense, find enough labor, right? And
yes,
I was working alongside, high school dropouts and 40-something-year-old moms, all looking to sort of get in there and have free training. And one day you're doing plumbing and then how to frame a wall and electrical. So it was really cool for sure. And I think you put a lot of that curriculum together also. I remember my instructor said one thing. He's like, new tech can come out in home building, but it doesn't actually get used or get adopted until like 20 years later.
Right.
In terms of like the molasses pace of new tech being actually rolled out, or people saying like, oh, that's a better way, I'm going to do it. Looking maybe from the outside in, I totally get it. As a GC, you have all these moving parts and in some cases barely feel like you're staying afloat. You don't even want to hear about anything different. And again, that's what I ran into doing these net zero renovations too. It's just new way is not on the radar. So you see this every day you in this industry. How would you kind of sum up where we are in terms of building and the whole building industry right now with efficiency and new code requirements and you see these articles like 4 million homes deficit in this country and prices have been shooting up, but the Fed raising rates lately has kind of put the brakes on the crazy appreciation which we kind of needed to have because it's been going up 10-20% a year, which is unsustainable. But how would you kind of sum up the whole building industry or where we are right now, since you kind of saw it in the 80s and 90s and 2000s?
I'll try to, break it down into parts and pieces. I think getting back to what you were just saying a moment ago about, the molasses pace of the construction industry adopting new technologies or new materials. I still see that all the time. It's very, and just like you said, it's hard enough to be in this business. The challenges of being a general contractor or tradesperson or, a builder developer for that matter. It's tough work. People definitely are, I think, have a lot of misperceptions about the challenges that we face as an industry. And so for the, at the top of the food chain, the builders and developers that are, creating projects and making them happen and doing the, hyper focused on the financial side of, the success of a project. Regulations, pushback from neighbors and communities, NIMBYism still creates a huge problem for building quality and attainable housing in this country. There are a lot of people who still have the feeling of I got mine and you don't get yours and don't build near me. And so I still think that's an issue. The regulations, I see, both sides of the response to regulations being put in place, in terms of building codes and the envelope being pushed now by building codes to be building more energy efficient or, better performance for better resilience. That's another buzzword that has really been thrown around a lot in the housing industry the last couple of years as we see more and more disasters from climate change, building homes that can withstand those, and, not just for 10 years from now, but 50 and 100 years from now. That's, something that I think deserves more time and attention. But the first cost is still what gets all of the attention. It's always about first cost, and helping consumers, people who are going to live in these homes, helping them to understand the value and to prioritize the life cycle cost of their home is a challenging conversation to have. And the education of everybody in the industry that has a voice that these consumers are going to hear, I feel like that's what we need to focus on. And specifically what I mean by that right now, I've become hyper focused on what the real estate community knows and understands about home construction and design and, utility bills and maintenance and repairs, and helping the role that a real estate agent can play in educating more consumers into understanding how to make a good home choice, sales choice. Sitting here in July of 22, part of the answer to that question also involved supply chain, issues and logistics, right? And that wasn't something that was really a major topic of conversation even 5 years ago, when I was talking with industry professionals about, what are your challenges? Supply chain very seldom came up, and now that's what everybody's focused on. So, but I think what does come up is, again, regulation, and then regulation without support. So again, requiring builders to start building a high performance home and, saying, all of a sudden we're going to slap a requirement that every home gets a blower door test and it needs to be below 3 ACH 50, but we're not going to do anything to help you figure out how to get there. We're not here to train you. We're not here to educate you. You're going to need to go figure that out yourself. You're probably going to have to invest money in figuring that out. So that is, that's something that I have seen as a big struggle in my time here. Again, the workforce development, the trades, that just finding people to do the work who know what they're doing and care about what they're doing. The lack of access to land or to projects that are buildable, right? To land, to whether it's virgin land or even if it's a redevelopment. Again, the challenges related to that, and if it's a brownfield site, everything that like here in Pittsburgh, obviously there's a lot of sites that are sitting passive right now, but to rebuild them into a residential community would require a tremendous amount of environmental cleanup, to get them to the point that you can put homes on top of them and expect people to live there. So that's an issue. It's a lot, where we're building and the impact that we have, putting people way out far away from their jobs and their families, and, requiring that they spend an insane amount of time commuting and, spending the money, and then, putting, emissions out into the world, getting to and from work and school and play. It's a lot. I really, again, the impact that the home building industry has on society just never ceases to amaze me, for better and for worse.